Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast. And Happy New Year! It's the first episode of 2022. 2022. That's kind of hard to say.
Trapped in the Matrix.
The podcast that covers the infinite and ever expanding multiverse of fandom. I'm Rob. I'm here as always with Courtney. Courtney, it's our first full year starting doing this podcast.
Are we really doing the podcast? Or are we trapped in the podcast?
Oh, man. I don't know. I guess it's up to us to decide.
Is it up to us, though? Or is it up to the Matrix?
Oh, man, you're asking all the important questions.
Just like the Matrix.
Always, for the better part of 20 years. The pseudo-philosophy of the Matrix is going to be top billing in this episode as we cover and review The Matrix Resurrections, the fourth installment in what was formerly the Matrix Trilogy, is now a quadrilogy?
I'll take it. I'll allow it.
So yeah, we're going to talk everything Matrix Resurrections, non-spoilers and spoilers. And yeah, before we get to that, we have a surprise delay.
Yeah. A surprise to some people, not a surprise to me. I saw this coming.
Did you?
I didn't see it coming, but when they announced it, I said, yeah, that makes sense. So, Morbius. This movie was supposed to come out in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from Friday, I believe, we would have been seeing Jared Leto back in the superhero light as Michael Morbius, aka Morbius the Living Vampire. And surprise, surprise, Spider-Man No Way Home comes out. And spoilers for that movie if you still haven't seen it, the 7 of you that still haven't seen it. Andrew Garfield's in this movie. Mm-hmm. And Tobey Maguire. And Andrew really stole some spotlight and some shine in that movie. And funny enough that this movie comes out, this Morbius movie, and they delay it 2 weeks before this movie's supposed to come out.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's not suspicious?
That's pretty suspicious, if you ask me. Because I went to see The Matrix last night, full reveal behind the curtain, and there was a Morbius preview before The Matrix started. I'm like, oh yeah, Morbius does come out in 2 weeks. Lo and behold, I get home, and they're like, Morbius has been delayed till April. And I'm like, like 3 whole months for a movie that was signed, sealed, delivered, done, ready to go?
For context, 2 weeks out from Spider-Man No Way Home, they were every promotion you can ask for. They were on their press junkets. The movie was ramping up to come out. It was just every piece of promotion you could ask for.
So what's going on here?
Andrew Garfield's what's going on here.
Probably, right? I have to imagine that's what it is.
Because we were in this limbo state when the first Morbius trailer came out. You had all the stuff about, the stuff happened in San Francisco, which obviously is Venom. You have the picture of what seems to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in the background that has murder written on it, but also Tom Holland's Spider-Man was supposedly a murderer. So there's a lot going on.
The Vulture's in this.
The Vulture's in this. Again, more for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But I just think they were waiting and seeing how well Spider-Man No Way Home did. And as soon as that movie hit the highs that it did, they gave Andrew Garfield that call and said, it's on.
Yeah, I would assume it's got to be something related to that. I don't know why else you would delay a movie 3 months. I could understand, I think they've come out and said that this is pandemic related. And I mean, I would buy that if the last movie they hadn't put out didn't just make $1 billion. Right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and you don't know. Like, I think we're at the point with this pandemic thing where, like, pushing something back a couple months, you don't know. Like, you don't know that things are going to be better now or better in April than they are now. Like, you don't know that. The writing was on the wall with this, I don't know, weeks ago. They could have made this decision anytime.
Right.
But it's curious timing that they're doing it now.
Right.
When the film is getting ready to come out, and then they're just like,
it's
just
not
slide
like
that
this
back.
movie's 2 months or 3 months. It's 2 weeks.
Right.
This is promotion time. This movie is being...
This isn't delay time.
Yeah, this is not delay time. Unless...
Unless you're refilming things.
Yeah, unless Andrew Garfield wants to say a hello to to your friendly neighborhood Michael Morbius.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. Unless, I don't know. That's it. It's Spider-Man. It has to be Spider-Man.
Right. I think they were, like I said, I think they were waiting to see which Spider-Man was going to be the one that stole the show, because it easily could have been Tom was the best one. People were over the moon about his performance, and he could have been the one. Maybe Tobey was the one that stole the show and stole all the shine. Maybe he would have been the one, but it just feels like Andrew Garfield. I mean, he feels like he's the most liked person in the world right now. So I could definitely see this being the first and possibly like a solid line of him being Spider-Man alongside Tom Holland in a different universe. Same, I don't know. This universe,
and I mean,
multiverse stuff, man.
The rumors are true about wanting to get those two back for potentially a Secret Wars live action situation. I mean, Andrew Garfield is going to be floating around the superhero zeitgeist for quite a while, I think. And I think he's all for it, man.
Me too.
I think this is, I mean, go back to anything he did leading up to Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. You could tell he really has a passion for the character and loved being Spider-Man.
Right.
And we've talked about on here about his divorce from Sony over not being in the MCU, not getting the Amazing Spider-Man 3. So I feel like for him, there's a lot of unfinished business that go beyond No Way Home. I think he wants to prove his mettle as a solo act now as Spider-Man, now that all eyes are on him. Cause, No Way Home does a nice little meta job of establishing him as like the middle child.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think he really feels that way.
Yeah.
So I think, he has to know that his performance in No Way Home is being pretty critically lauded by pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
And I think he, is striking while the iron's hot. And I think he's ready to jump back into the role in a solo aspect. And, and, it's weird how these things work out for Sony, right? Because, this whole time while they've been, after Amazing Spider-Man 2 and they've been doing everything with Tom Holland, people were like, well, why are they doing a Venom movie without Spider-Man? Why are they doing a Morbius movie without Spider-Man? And lo and behold, the Spider-Man that they need to connect all these other movies has fallen into their lap.
Yeah. And it's working. It's working. He's so popular right now. I mean, every post it feels like is about Andrew Garfield and how great he is, and finally people are singing his praises. And job well done. I'm so happy for him. He's a real life good actor beyond Spider-Man 2 people. I hope everybody realizes that he's, like I said, I think I said this in like Toby's episode, that I think that he's the best actor out of the 3 Spider-Men. And I personally don't even think it's close. I mean, he's worked with Martin Scorsese before. This guy's got a pretty solid track record. I mean, conversely, Tobey Maguire is going to work with Damien Chazelle in a little bit, which is also an Oscar winner, but same concept. The guy can act. So, and also, this is going to help kind of distance Tom away from all the questions that we had before about, is he going to have to do all these things? Are we going to have to cross the multiverse? Where now he doesn't really have to if Andrew's been the one that's been there the whole time. Because Venom being there would affect stuff that Tom's doing, but it won't affect anything that happened in the Andrew Garfield movies.
Yeah, I think Sony has just gotten incredibly lucky. Do I think this was their plan the entire time? No. No, I don't.
But sometimes whatever Obi-Wan said about luck, that there's no such thing as luck.
Yeah, I don't know if Obi-Wan said that.
I think it was Obi-Wan that said that.
I don't know if he was the first person to say that.
See what happens when we haven't talked Star Wars for like 24 weeks? See what happens?
Seriously. Speaking of Star Wars, though, Book of Boba Fett had its first episode released, and pretty good.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was, because I do have a theory that Star Wars, the back of Star Wars is on Jedi, and they need Jedi to kind of function. And The Mandalorian kind of backed that theory, because as soon as the first episode ended, we had a Force-sensitive being that was right there. So Jedi work. And this episode finally worked without them, because even in Rogue One, it still had the aura of the Jedi around it and the Force, and kind of the Force more as like a religion instead of something that people use.
And Darth Vader's in it.
Right, and Darth Vader's in it at the end. And same thing for Solo. I mean, Darth Maul, again, was at the very end. He was the one behind the curtain. So this episode, it felt kind of, like you said before we hopped on, the Western theme is working for the Mandalorians. I think, what did I say? I said the Mandalorians have the Westerns, the Jedi have that samurai influence behind them, and kind of the Imperials versus the Resistance is kind of like 1776 running it back with the British.
Yeah.
So,
and even, the title of the episode, Stranger in a Strange Land, very, very Western, Tamara Morrison is good.
Yeah,
there was a lot more of him physically than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
Not a lot of him in the mask.
And to jump the gun on this Matrix review, same thing for kind of what Keanu Reeves, because it's not like he's young. He's not. So same thing for him. He's doing a really good job as Boba, and he's flushing out more of the actual character, because we haven't, if you think about it, we haven't really seen that before. We started to get the bones of it in The Mandalorian, but now we're finally getting the actual, like, I think, what did I tell you? I think they tracked it. Boba Fett was in the original trilogy for 2 minutes and 8 seconds of screen time and is still one of the most iconic characters. So it's finally time he's getting his due.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I don't know where it's going. It's very like first season of The Mandalorian. Not to make it's an easy comp, but that is the comp. Like when the first episode of The Mandalorian finished, I was like, what is this? Like, what are we in store for? I feel like the second season was a little more formulaic, and it did, we talked about this before, about how it kind of leaned on the back of established kind of canon stuff, which, I mean, this is Boba Fett. But to be fair, this is a character, as you said, has not been well established. He's a character from the original trilogy, but as you said, he's a character that's not in it very long, despite making, an impression on fans.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest impressions out of any characters from the 80s as well. That's like, that. It's because that character's kind of like Din Djarin in the same way. It's this mysterious figure. It's the Western trope that Clint Eastwood kind of made his career on. It's this mysterious figure that comes into the picture and kind of is not running amok in the town, but making his presence known as, I'm the baddest person that's here and I can take on anybody that I want. It's a really good piece of storytelling in my opinion too.
Yeah, I agree. And, I like how they did in the first episode, drawing immediate comps to how he would rule the criminal underworld compared to how Jabba did. Jabba ruled with fear. I tend to rule with respect. Right. That's very tropey, but it's a trope that works.
Yeah. I think I saw a video. It's like the Machiavelli type of, is it better to be feared or loved? And this is what I think you even made the joke. This is basically the Sopranos in space. Like, this is what it is. So we're going to see if it's going to work as well.
Yeah. Ming-Na Wen. Great. She's a great right hand to him.
She's great. She knows how to fight. I mean, definitely off the backs of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of our favorite shows here that I think people should check out more, especially the later seasons. Does not get enough credit for it. It's funny, not to get off topic, but it's funny, the farther Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. distanced itself from the MCU, the better the show got. And especially once it hit season 4, that show just hit the gas pedal full steam and became an actual good show that you can check in every week and get something different, but still having, the outer layers of the MCU around it. But get back to Star Wars. The show's doing something right. It's on.
I think so. I think it's smart that it's only 6 episodes. The older I've gotten and the more, streaming shows that we've gotten, the more I'm in favor of a tighter schedule.
Yeah.
In terms of, we've talked about the CW shows on here. They run 23 episodes. Per season generally, and that just feels glacial.
Yeah, and
compared to what these other shows are doing.
And it's funny that Superman and Stargirl are 13 episodes, and they were probably the best 2 shows with, I want to say, Flash season 1 and Arrow season 2/5. Like, I know those were longer, but you kind of needed it because the Flash has so much of a rich comic history, and Green Arrow was a season and it was the first one, and then season 5, same concept. It had so much to back off of it as well. But being shorter, Hawkeye, the Disney Plus shows are another good example. Yeah. If you don't count the first 3 episodes of WandaVision, it's still a 6-episode season. Again, as soon as everybody becomes aware of what's going on, it's a 6-episode season. Falcon and the Winter Soldier 6. It just kind of turns it into a mini movie when you do that, which you have, because it's 6 hours instead of 2 to 3. You get a little bit more time to flush stuff out too. So I like the direction that they're going. I think he's given a really good performance to start off as well. It's just the fact that he didn't have as much time, and obviously he wasn't in the original trilogy, but it's just because I even love the sequence they extended the sequence from Attack of the Clones with him with Boba, or with him with
Jango Fett.
With Jango, yeah.
Yeah. And just, the flashbacks to Camino briefly.
It just adds that humanity to, a bounty hunter, because this aura of a bounty hunter in the 80s of, cool action heroes, it just adds a little added layer just to make them a little bit more believable, a little bit more human.
Yeah, and it doubles down on the clone continuity that Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett that was just not rapidly aged like the others, because Jango obviously wanted to have an actual son, and this was the substitute for that. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how much they're going to lean into that.
I think they are, because that's probably going to be the emotional core of this show, is that concept of him. Was he wanted? Obviously he was wanted, but it's the fact that what Bo-Katan was kind of talking about in The Mandalorian is you're just a clone. I've seen a bunch like you. You're not special. So him being the ruler of Jabba's old place, that could kind kind of help lend credence to that too. I think that's actually an interesting dynamic. This show could really go in the right direction if they kind of if they pace it well enough too.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing that I wasn't really expecting. I wasn't sure how much they were going to lean into the prequel stuff, or if they were just going to focus kind of like Mandalorian style, just focus on the now, focus on what he's up to now. They showed his escape from the Sarlacc, which obviously you had to do.
Right. Shout out Patton Oswalt, because I'm pretty sure
I saw that. Yeah,
awesome.
like beat for beat.
Yeah. Patton Oswalt's like living the dream, because he was like, read comics, watched all these movies when he was a kid, and now he's just appearing in all this stuff now too.
Yeah, he's like the go-to when someone needs like a thing.
Yeah. He was Pip the Troll, right? In the
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He was also the one guy in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. The one of many guys.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Beyond that, I guess we're going to talk some Matrix.
Yes.
So
before we get started, are you going to take the blue pill or the red pill?
Oh, this is a red pill situation.
Yeah, this is full red pill.
Full red pill. But as you know, I'm a numbers guy, so I got some numbers.
And oh boy, if there was a movie to talk numbers.
Oh boy, is there.
How many ones and zeros do you have?
I got 4 zeros and 1 1.
Yikes.
In these box office numbers anyway. Yeah, this movie did not do well.
So let's just get that out of the way. Granted, this movie, came out on HBO Max, because pandemic is the B in this situation. That's the A. And same thing happened. Dune definitely helped a little bit, because they definitely played up in the promotion. You need to see this in the theater to get the full experience. Suicide Squad is a superhero movie, so that's going to help. Same thing with... What other movie am I thinking about that they did? We have...
They've done a couple. They did Godzilla vs. Kong, which I think did pretty well box office-wise.
Again, but that's a big franchise that has a lot
and that's Batman vs. Superman of monster movies.
Right.
Mortal Kombat, don't think it did super well in theaters, but that's also a very niche movie.
Right.
That's a small sect of, and I think it made its money back.
Yeah.
I think it was like a $53 million budget and ended up doing like $100 million or something like that. And conversely, that's about what The Matrix has done.
Right.
Is about $106 million, which...
Yeah. Yeah. How much money? So what was the budget for this movie?
I believe the budget was around $158 million. So has not made its money back in terms of budget.
You surprised they didn't get a higher budget?
I don't know, because I guess this ties into kind of what the movie's about, right? I feel like I'm struggling to find out who blinked first. Like who came to who, right?
I want to think it was Warner Brothers came to
Lana Wachowski.
Yeah, I want to think that's what it is. And then Lana went back and said, okay, these are my demands. And then Warner Brothers said, no,
we can't get everything.
Right.
We'll give you some, but we're not giving you everything.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that, because I think there's some filmmaking things that are very apparent on why she didn't get everything that she wanted.
And then critically and review-wise, not terrible. Critic Rotten Tomatoes, kind of the baseline, your aggregate. 64% critically, 63% audience. So critics and audience are pretty well aligned that this is a pretty okay movie. It's not going to blow your doors off. It's not revolutionary in the way that the first Matrix was. It's a movie. It's there.
Also, it's also not the worst movie of the year. Nothing even close to that.
I think people are disappointed in this movie because it came out off the back end of Spider-Man.
Yes. So Spider-Man No Way Home did two things to audiences, which kind of started in Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame was the big one. So what I'm getting at is the audience reaction type of thing. And it's what this movie is, a piece of this movie is about, because whenever a Matrix movie comes out, it's very self-aware of the time it's coming out. That's kind of the whole concept of the first one, because it was 1999 rolling into Y2K in 2000. And this whole movie has a really big social media influence behind it. So it's the fan service. It's a big piece of this. So when the things that you want to happen don't happen, it's why the Star Wars community is always mad all the time. People consider that bad, and Spider-Man No Way Home gave the delivery of all deliveries in movies. So now that's the bar. Avengers,
that's the bar, yeah.
Right. Avengers Endgame was the bar, but it was plausible in the bar. There was at no point of having your old childhood Spider-Man come back. There's no rule that says they need to come back.
Yeah, and Avengers Endgame is a little different in terms of the quote-unquote fan service, because it doesn't revolve around callbacks. It doesn't revolve around bringing old characters back. It revolves around telling a cohesive story over 12 years of making movies. Whereas Spider-Man No Way Home is a direct correlation to bringing old characters back, bringing back old through lines, obviously telling a good story, but it's different levels. Whereas this, The Matrix Resurrections, is more in the No Way Home camp. But I shouldn't say that. I think it tried to do both at the same time.
That's the self-aware nature of this movie and the franchise itself. And we're going to get into that when we talk about the first 40 minutes, which is as heavy-handed as heavy-hand can be.
Yeah. So, let's talk about the cast real quick. Keanu Reeves obviously returns as Thomas Anderson, aka Neo, one of the most iconic
characters
protagonists in film history.
Yeah.
Kind of sneaky, one of the forefathers of the superhero genre.
Yeah. I think I talked about that before we hopped on here a couple days ago. We were talking. I said he really is one of the single most iconic pieces of fiction you can find. I mean, it's just because of the digital age. He kind of is one of the founding fathers of narrative digital age. It's Neo. He's there, yeah.
And that's why it's funny watching this movie and people were like, oh, like, this is tropey and that's that. I'm like, Neo built the trope.
Yeah, he was the trope. I think he deserves to, defy those tropes or be those tropes.
He's good. He's good in this. Yeah. Comfortably slides back into the role, but kind of also brought that kind of John Wick quiet bravado about him also.
Yeah.
That he obviously doesn't have in the first one, because the first one is his path of becoming
he's
Neo.
Very fish out of water. He's like Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games in the first one,
The second movie, Matrix Reloaded, is like peak of his powers, Neo, and then Matrix Revolutions is more about, his hero's journey and coming to an end, essentially.
He's got the Luke Skywalker thing for those first three movies, which again is the tropes, but if there's a movie to break the tropes or be the tropes, it's The Matrix. It is the franchise to do it.
Carrie-Anne Moss returns as Tiffany, aka Trinity. It's good to see her back.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about this a little more in spoilers. The relationship between those two characters is the strongest part of this entire movie, in my opinion.
I would agree on that.
Who else we got in this?
Jessica Henwick.
Yes, Jessica Henwick.
I'm going to actually take back what I said. I think she's the strongest part of this movie.
She's great.
Yeah.
She is basically the point of view character.
Right.
Essentially.
Right. So she comes in and she basically has that youthful exuberance, and it's just the understanding of she's the stand-in for, as fans, how we consume these bigger franchises that have been around for a long time. Because, not super spoilers, but there's a part in the beginning, towards the beginning of the movie, where she sees Neo jumping off a building, and she says, "I saw you, and that inspired me." Just like how so many of us are inspired by all these fictional characters for our entire lives. So. Yeah.
So she's great. We'll talk about, she plays Bugs, which is, I guess you can call a heavy-handed kind of delivery by Warner Brothers. She even makes the joke, Bugs like Bugs Bunny. Warner Brothers, haha. Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
Yes.
As Morpheus.
Staying on fire in his career.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's good in this. I think I texted you as soon as I finished the movie. I said, my one sentence review of The Matrix, the story is kind of nonsense, but the cast is pretty great.
Yeah. No, he does, what he does is he has to carry the weight of, again, one of the most iconic characters, which again, it's very meta, because that's what, if you're rebooting, I mean, I think I used the analog of Spider-Man before, getting the younger version of yourself, and I think they did it in the movie in the beginning with Trinity, getting a younger version of yourself to play yourself, play the character that you revolutionized. It's very funny. Yeah. It's really, but he did a great job, and I don't want to get into it yet. We'll get into his character, because it's not what you think.
No, it's not. A lot of people raised their eyebrows when this casting first happened, that Keanu Reeves was coming back and Carrie-Anne Moss was coming back, and then we have a new Morpheus.
Right.
But there is an in-story reason for why that's the case. And going back to, I think as far as the meta stuff goes, I think he delivers his material the best.
And also in that theater sequence too, I think that's the cusp of why I liked it so much.
Yeah. And he has a great line when he first encounters Neo, and he does basically a Lawrence Fishburne impression.
Yeah. It's good.
and he goes, I just had to try it. You know what I mean?
So I watched the original Matrix because I thought about it and I saw Resurrections, and I was like, I hadn't seen The Matrix since I was like young, and I was just going off what I would talk about with people about it over X amount of years of my life, and it was a long time. So I watched The Matrix again with quote unquote my evolved film brain, and it was great, man. It quickly turned into one of my favorite movies of all time, just rewatching it. I think it's the combination of the fandom with the action sequences too. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that we talked about the impression piece, again, going back to how, I mean, superhero genre is probably the top tier of this, of if you play somebody else again, you're kind of doing an impression of what somebody did before. That's all it is. It's, if you're playing somebody from fiction that's already established, you're doing an adaptation, that's all you're doing. And I love how they immediately address it right out of the gate when he meets Neo. They just take the impression. He's just like, oh, I'm just kidding. That's just how you
He's
remember
like, yeah,
this.
Yeah, I just thought, I'd jog your memory a little bit with thunder. What does he say? Thunder and smoke?
Smoke, yeah.
That Morpheus one appeared with.
Right, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I really do.
Two more that I kind of want to talk about. Jonathan Groff as Smith. Dude. That guy. This is Mr. Mindhunter. Yeah, for those of you who don't know.
I know a lot of people took issue with Smith and not getting Hugo Weaving to return. I mean, he didn't return to the MCU. I don't think he was going to return to be in the Matrix if he didn't.
Right.
But going beyond that, I think... So the more we talk... Because I was very base level on it when I saw it, because I didn't see it with you. And I was very... This is just... The software update of a tech billionaire is so cliche, but this is the point I'm going to keep saying during the episode. That's the point of the Matrix, the whole franchise itself. That's the point. And they keep getting software updates to evolve with the times. And that's where we are. It's the tech billionaire. We're in the tech billionaire era of our lives right now. Mm-hmm. So him being that in the movie. And then I love the sequence where he turns back into Mr. Smith and he yells the iconic line, Mr. Anderson. It's great. It's good. He really owns that kind of, it's the generic nature of the agents, but it's also Hugo Weaving kind of like excelling himself above it and being like, I am the top of this. Like, I am the top. There is levels to
cold,
this.
calculated. Yeah. He plays it so well.
Yeah, he does.
And then MPH.
Yeah.
Neil Patrick Harris. Not too much that we can talk about without diving into spoilers. He plays the analyst in this, who is essentially Neo's therapist.
Yeah.
That talks through him, because obviously Neo is pretty broken up by the time we see him in this movie. Right. But he's good. He's an enigma. Yeah. He played it. We'll talk about it more in spoilers. And then Priyanka Chopra's in this also. Gets the Zendaya and Dune role. If you saw her on the cast, if you saw her in the cast list and expected to know who she is, and expected to see a lot of her, she's not really in this a ton.
Maybe she'll be in the next one a lot.
If there is a next one.
If there is a next one, yeah.
Which I guess we'll talk about.
We're just going to forget about Jada Pinkett Smith coming back?
I was going to save that for spoilers, but we can talk about that.
My bad.
Yeah, Jada Pinkett Smith returns as Niobe in a interesting role.
Yeah.
For more or less.
Right. Probably my least favorite out of this.
I don't think
it's not her fault though. It's just
it's not, and it's not really a spoiler to say. And I would have to work the story a little bit to think about if this works or not. But I think Lawrence Fishburne probably could have done this role. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it also would have been interesting to have him and Yahya Mateen Abdul at the same time in the movie. That would have been interesting. Yeah. If this movie would have came out like a year after Spider-Man No Way Home, maybe they would have been like, oh, maybe we just do get him back and have multiple versions of the same guy.
I mean, he is and he isn't.
Yeah, he is and he isn't, is the truth.
All right, spoilers.
Yeah.
So, first spoiler. The Matrix, or the machines are back. The machines are back.
Yeah.
Neo briefly saved the world.
Mm-hmm. And briefly is the key word.
Well, 60 years, I guess, isn't brief.
But I mean, to the machines, that's like a
fraction of a second. It's a fraction of a time. So the machines, some of the machines are back. There's a machine civil war, and the bad machines have reconstructed Neo and Trinity and trapped them both back in the Matrix. The caveat being they need Neo to be in the Matrix, but needs him to not know that he's Neo.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, again,
an interesting concept.
Yeah, this is my big thing about this movie. This movie, again, has the bones of an actually... When I saw the second trailer for this movie, I said, oh, they might be onto something really cool for an updated version. And again, this goes back to the studio. This might have been... Lana might not have gotten exactly what she wanted on this movie. I think that might have been a big thing. And there might have been some battling going on because, again... There's a really good concept in this movie that's trapped, but again, really
much like Neo is trapped.
Much like Neo is trapped. But maybe that's the point.
Maybe.
Maybe they made an okay movie on purpose.
See, here we go. This is what the Matrix did to people in 2000.
Exactly.
We're like, well, was the movie bad or was it bad on purpose?
Right.
Was Lana Wachowski really Neo the whole time?
Is she Neo?
We don't know. Maybe. But yeah, so the machines have trapped Neo in the Matrix. They trap him as a game developer who once upon a time developed a trilogy of games, the Matrix Reloaded, Matrix Revolutions. Right. It's actually a perfect cover story by the machines.
That actually, yeah, it's pretty smart. And I think you asked the question before, why? Like, why would this be the thing? And I said, because it keeps him comfortable. Like, that's the whole, it keeps him nice and docile. That it's not like he's some coder for some companies he's unhappy with. This time around, which makes sense, he's successful. It's like, before he was working in an office and it was like working for the man essentially, but now he's in control, but he doesn't have control. It's like the false reality that kind of Cypher talks about in the first one. It's like, I think he throws away the line, like, I know the steak is fake, but ignorance is bliss, so my brain's going to tell me it's real. And
that concept is touched upon in by Neil Patrick Harris's character, who, since we're in spoilers now, is the overarching villain of this story.
Yes.
The analyst is the one who essentially created this new version of the Matrix and needs Neo and Trinity, because the whole point for the Matrix is the machines keeping humans docile to feed them energy, basically. Right. And Neo and Trinity are, I guess, like endless batteries.
Right.
Basically.
Which gets to, I don't know how far the science fiction works in this universe. Maybe it's because I just watched the first Matrix. I didn't watch Reloaded and Revolutions. So how far does the science fiction roll? Because I can buy that we made AIs and the AIs rebelled and they need our bodies because we're basically electricity. Like there's electrical impulses inside ourselves. But where does this stem to? Because Neo's the one inside the Matrix, which makes sense because it's basically his brain. But how does this work outside? Like, isn't he not just a guy outside of the Matrix? Like, how far does the science fiction roll?
I guess his not his powers, but like the scope of his powers and where he gets his powers from is what drives his form in the Matrix, and that's why he is the way that he is inside the Matrix, is because, like you said, at the end of the day, he's just a guy, but inside that guy is some type of nigh supernatural power.
Yeah, maybe it's like beyond. Maybe it's like the Thor line where magic is just science that we haven't discovered yet. Maybe it's like beyond that. Like, yeah, the Matrix is just science we haven't delved that far into yet.
And I mean, to be fair, in the other movies, Niobe and kind of her sect of people look at Neo much the way that you do. Yeah. When then he's like, what? It's like, Morpheus, you're like a lunatic. Right. Like, this guy is not anything. He's just a guy, and the war is still going on. Like, right. How is this guy going to end the war? Yeah. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy when you get to the end of the third one, where Neo, he doesn't do anything special really to bring down the Matrix. He just is just the guy willing to make the tough call.
Because, like I said, he is the Luke Skywalker of the digital age. He's the Messiah character for this whole franchise. So he does sacrifice himself at the end of Revolutions as well, just to drive home that point even more. So.
And so NPH traps them both and masks their appearance to how Neo can see himself as himself, but everyone else sees him as like an old man. Right. It's basically so that no one, someone like Bugs who is looking for him wouldn't be able to find him.
Right. Because if they see this old man, they're probably not going to want his help.
Because I think Bugs even makes the mention that like we looked you up in that company, right, and we didn't think it was you. Right. And then till he's broken out. Right. And he's broken out by way of New Morpheus.
Right, New Morpheus. Yes. And Yaya, it's just, so let's just go right into it. He walks out of the bathroom stall, and just to go to the beginning of the movie, a big piece of this is isn't it revealed that it's Agent Smith and Morpheus kind of combined into one?
This character of this New Morpheus is not an actual human that exists outside the Matrix. He's a program created by Neo inside the Matrix, subconsciously,
I believe so. Yeah.
So he created this Morpheus character to basically be the one to wake him up subconsciously. He didn't realize that that's what he did, but that's what he did. He took elements from Morpheus, elements from Smith, and created, kind of the two most influential presences on him in the past, and formed this new character who he names Morpheus.
Right.
And yeah, so Bugs wakes up this Morpheus and kind of loops him in on the whole, because he's an evolving AI.
Yeah.
So he kind of figures out what his whole role is in this, and that is to do what the first Morpheus did, and that's break Neo out of the Matrix.
Right. And it works.
Mm-hmm.
Sorta.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
Yeah, it takes a little bit more, which is funny. And this kind of actually helps why I kind of like Keanu Reeves in this role, because he kind of has the Luke Skywalker thing in the end of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, where he's like, nah, I'm gonna stay here, and then the catalyst happens, like, maybe I should help a little bit.
Well, the catalyst is Trinity, basically.
Right, yeah.
Is essentially what it is.
Because that love, if Interstellar taught me one thing, is love is quantifiable.
Because they do the red pill, blue pill thing, and Neo's like, nope.
Neither, please.
I'm not doing this again, basically. And that's leads way to Smith's Awakening, also. The same sequence, basically.
Right.
Is the catalyst for Smith's reawakening, also.
I love how Neo was the red pill, blue pill, and Smith was a gun on the ground.
and he's like, oh.
Yeah. I remember this. I remember the slow motion.
And just a really great character transformation by Jonathan Groff,
too. He delivers. He delivers 100%.
Because he walks into the room and he's like, what's going on here? And then he looks at the gun and like his facial expression changes. And then, as you said, he delivers the Mr. Anderson, and Neo's like, oh, no.
Yep. Good stuff. So they have that same sequence that they did in 2000 where Morpheus is, directing traffic and trying to get him out of the office, and he tells him again, because that's one thing I really loved about the first Matrix. Like, it's the immediate defying of expectation, because you think he's the main character in an action movie and he's just gonna get out of the office, and I love how immediately he can't get out, and it's just the trap nature of it. So same thing. And I like about this one which not more, but what's cool about this one is that he's not trapped because he couldn't get out, because he doesn't know what's going on. He's trapped because he's trapped inside of his own mind. That's what I kind of like about it.
And that's proof positive that what the machines did to him was working.
Yeah, it was, yeah. 100%.
Because he was so... he even says to Morpheus when he first sees him, you can't be a character that I created.
Right.
And Morpheus is like, look, grab me. Like, that all natural. Like,
right.
And then... What I liked about that sequence too is you think he's gonna break out in that moment, but he doesn't.
Right.
The analyst reels him back in and kind of resets things.
Yeah.
And then they have to try again, and then they do it through more convincing means.
Yeah. And then again, the big overarching theme is that nothing's new under the sun. They repeat that sequence again. They just give it a software update. Instead of him on the phone with him, he's texting him how to get out of there. I love it. It's funny callbacks. Doesn't work for some people. I'm split on it. Now that I'm thinking about it more, I understand.
And
I get it.
And you can tell the purpose of the spoiler review that we picked up in this moment instead of what the first 30-ish minutes present us, because that honestly is not very good. It's not. I understand. I do get it for people yelling at me that I don't get it. I get it. Mm-hmm. I get what they did in the first 30 minutes, that, it's supposed to be meta. It's supposed to be, well, this is what people want in a reboot, but it's not done well. It's just not.
Even the opening action sequence with Jessica Henwick and Yahya Abdul-Mateen, these are our new characters that we didn't recast or reboot. So these are your point of view characters, Jessica Henwick, and this is your first recasting character as Morpheus, and
who we see as an agent.
Yeah, right, and that's a very, very big change. And the story itself has the structure to be good, but it's just the way they execute it isn't done well. Like, even down to the editing is very... I get it, because it has a lot of like early 2000s, like kind of like that stop motion kind of editing for slow motion. And it's just, I wish they would have picked one thing or two things instead of, they kind of picked like 4 or 5 different ways to shoot this movie, and it's just...
Could also argue the same thing about the themes, too.
Yeah, right.
Just trying to tackle everything at once. It's thematic overload, I told you.
Because there's not really any subtlety with it. The original Matrix had a lot of... it had the big theme, and then it had a lot of subtlety.
And they commentate on that, too, in this movie, which is crazy to me.
Right.
So like I said, it's not that I don't get it. I get it. It's just there's a difference between getting it and if it's executed well. And for the first 40-ish minutes, it's just not executed well.
Right.
And that's comes down to a lot of things. It comes down to writing. It comes my thing with this movie is, I think I told you this. There's a good story in this movie somewhere, which tells me that it's not on the writing, because there's a foundation there for a good story. That's usually a trademark, that the writing is good and the directing is generally pretty good. It's just the powers that be, didn't want this movie to be fulfilled to what the creators envisioned it to be.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I've landed on this, especially in the first, like I said, that first 45 minutes, because after Neo does break out of the Matrix and he comes out of the pod and you see the machines and the ships, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this feels like the Matrix.
Yeah, this is what we remember from the first one.
Even the earlier action sequences that looked like the Matrix didn't feel like the Matrix.
Right. It just felt like a generic action movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I even said before, it's like when I had my rewatch on Christmas Day of the original Matrix, it was such a euphoric experience because it's the baseline. Like, they set the baseline.
You're seeing the birth of like a format, basically.
Right. And it's something that people tried to copy, parody forever. Like, it's always going to be like that.
Bullet time.
Right. Just how Star Wars did, just how some of the earlier superhero movies did, just like Jaws did, like all these iconic. Matrix is on that upper echelon of the iconic movies of all time. Like Back to the Future, like it needs to be there. So it's funny that they didn't use what made them so popular.
Yeah.
And that goes for themes and for action.
So like I said, he breaks out of the Matrix, and then basically the rest of the movie it's a love story. It's basically what it is. Neo's like, I don't want to be out here if she's still in there.
Right.
Basically. And I mean, there's storyline reasons for why they need to be together, yada yada. That's another type of thing that really didn't land.
Yeah.
Totally.
The explanation. Yeah. So basically, they turn into what not Luke.
Ray and Kyle, they're a dyad in the Matrix.
Yeah, they're a dyad in the Matrix. So they need to, they're basically the 0 and 1 being for binary. I don't know code. They need to be together. That's the point.
Yeah. And like together, because even Neil Patrick Harris says, I needed to keep you close enough to keep you wanting to be here.
That was like Hancock with Will Smith and Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
Just far enough apart where your powers would work, but not too close.
Not too close that you can tear this whole thing down, basically.
Right. And then become human and then live your lives happily ever after. We
right.
Can't have that.
So Neo is once again, he's back in that shithole of a real world.
Yeah.
which is just which is dark and as gritty and awful as I remember it in the first 3 movies.
Maybe Cypher did have a point.
And you're like, why would you even want to be here?
Right, man. We gotta eat this slop again.
But
they
so we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
So basically, in this new reality, Neo's like he gets even more depressed when he wakes up, because he's like, I sacrificed myself and Trinity sacrificed herself to make this better, and it's still the same crap. And Jessica Henwick tries to convince him, like, no, like, it is better.
Yeah, and then
it was for a time.
It's multi-layered because the message is, look who you inspired. Again, that's another big piece of this movie. It's this reboot culture that we live in right now. It's look what you inspired. Like, look at the people that you've kind of.
Neo is basically the stand-in for the original Matrix.
Right.
He has a really nice a redo of the dojo scene with Morpheus, where Morpheus is again trying to wake him up. Basically, this is like awaken his powers in the Matrix is basically what he's trying to do. And he does. He beats him up a bit, and then he gets his powers back. And he's like, oh yeah, I am Neo. And then they're like, yeah, we're on to something now. So then they come forward, and Jessica Henwick is like, it's time for you to meet the general. We're like, ooh, who's the general? It's Jada Pinkett Smith. It's Niobe.
Yeah, she's back.
She's built a better future for the humans. They work
a better future.
Better future ? They work side by side with some machines and what are they called? Synthients or something like that. Which is what Morpheus is, right? He's a synthient.
Yes.
Yeah, so he can exist. They found a way. They developed technology that the programs can now exist outside of the Matrix.
It's
through
basically 3D printing, but
through like
in live action 3D printing.
The Man of Steel,
yes,
the beads,
right? Yeah, that's
the pin art.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah, so Morpheus can exist, and they have others, synthids that can do that also. And this is where they double down again on like, no, you did make things better for our time. Like there was peace, and then the machines realized like, no, we actually still need humans to sustain us, and some machines weren't on board with that. There was a civil war. Zion was overrun, and they create a new place called Io, which is where Jada Pinkett Smith and her crew. And she's very like forward. She's like, why are you even here? Like,
we don't need you.
Which is again kind of like a meta thing. Like, why are you back? Like, why is the Matrix back? Like, what do you got for us? Like, what's different this time? And yeah, she has it's warm and cold with her. And this is where I said like Lawrence Fishburne couldn't have gotten this role as an older Morpheus.
Right, because it would have, again, that probably would have been the Luke Skywalker thing in the new trilogy. It would have been the reluctant. It would have been even funnier if even he started to believe some of the things that she was saying. That even if she was like, or even if Morpheus was, maybe you weren't the one this whole time because you sacrificed yourself and we're still here. Like,
and that's essentially how they write Morpheus out. There's a statue, an effigy to Lawrence Fishburne's Morpheus, where Niobe explains to Neo that he was elected, Grand Council, whatever the hell he was, of Zion. But when there were rumors and speculation that there was this new machine uprising, Morpheus refused to believe it because he believed that Neo was the one and that he saved the world. Yeah. So he, when the uprising did happen, it's unclear what happened to Morpheus.
Yeah. And I think that's another issue with this film is there's a lot of, I am more than okay with ambiguity. I think that's a good thing sometimes in some forms of some of these media forms that we get. My issue is when you don't pay off anything in the story that you need to pay off. Like some things you don't need to pay off, but something like that, you might want to answer what happened to the second biggest character in your entire
Neo doesn't
franchise.
Ask either, which I thought was odd.
Right.
Like he doesn't ask what happened to Morpheus.
Yeah, they were brothers, essentially.
It's implied, I guess, that he either died in the New Machine Uprising or he killed himself or something.
Which is such a fast and, I don't want to say lazy, but just such a fast and just throwaway for a character that iconic.
Yeah, the implication is that he essentially went mad, crazy, and believing the prophecy and... like I said, I think it could have been interesting if you would have gotten him back to be the Niobe role and be more like jaded towards Neo, because that could have been a natural progression for Morpheus also.
And that also could have helped that whole Smith and Neo kind of dichotomy that we're going to get into in a little bit. Yeah,
so basically now it becomes a rescue mission for Trinity, because Neo's like, I don't want to be out here if she's not here. And she's alive. I didn't know she was alive. And now I know she's alive for a fact. I've seen her. So we have to go get her. And Niobe's like, absolutely not.
Right. And Niobe, right? Question mark? Probably not, because the ending of this movie, but I understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, she's like, look, we made fruit, man.
Yeah. When's the last time you had a strawberry?
Never.
Exactly.
Not a real one.
Right. Yeah, computer generated strawberry. They don't hit the same.
So yeah, I mean, she does have a point. Like, man, all you did was cause us trouble, and you almost destroyed the world. And Neo's like, almost though.
Yeah, almost. But what if the two of us were here?
Yeah, and then I forget so she locks up Jessica Henwick and Neo and the whole crew, and Morpheus is like, so you're just gonna let her lock you up, are you? And Neo's like, nope, we're out of here. So they go back into the Matrix, and he confronts Trinity, and he's just about to tell her, and then NPH shows up, and he's like, aha, I'm the villain. Well, before that, there's a fight in a warehouse.
With the Merovingians.
The Merovingians back.
As I didn't like it as much as you did, I think.
I thought it was fine.
I took issue to how fast and quick they just threw them away, which, again, is a very reboot thing to do.
Right. Here's this old thing, and there it goes.
Yeah, there it goes.
And it's not as... I think they also did it as a way to be like, this thing that you thought was real cool back then is not cool now.
Right.
So we're just gonna throw that out. Leads to a really great fight between Smith and Neo though, in the basement of this warehouse
Matrix
building.
1 vibes between Morpheus.
That's my favorite
Smith.
action scene in this movie.
Yeah,
is that fight between? It's very visceral, very very hard hitting.
Felt very. I'm not gonna lie. I have the original Matrix running on my computer as we're talking, and it felt a lot like the original movie.
The subway fight.
Right.
Not to mind. You talked about the editing. Not a lot of quick cuts in that action sequence, if I'm remembering it right.
No, not as much as the rest of the movie.
That's what exactly.
And another point that I want to make is this movie had a lot of trailer moments in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's movies that reveal the whole movie in the trailer, which this movie, I think it did a really good job of not.
I think so.
But it did have a lot of trailer shots, like shots, not trailer shots of like, shots that are cool. I mean, literally shots that look like they were just made to be in a trailer so you can sell a movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Which, again, is the whole Matrix thing.
Yeah, we get it. We get it.
Yeah.
We get what happened in this movie.
I'm going to keep saying it, but...
Yeah, we get it. We get what happened, guys. Don't think we didn't get it. We got it. We just have issues with it.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing.
Right.
Just because you have issues with something doesn't mean you don't get it.
Right.
You could just not like it.
And we don't, or me personally, now that we're talking about it, I've had some time to settle with this movie. I don't have as negative a reception as I did on the night I saw it. I get that's another thing. Sitting with it for a little bit helped, and just kind of rationalize some thoughts about the movie, because it's the first reaction to, and again, it's not living up to the same as the original did, which is another thing for new movies coming out. They don't, sometimes it's the comparison piece, like, oh, this isn't the original Matrix, which is basically my whole argument from this. But again, that's very meta and very aware. They probably know it's not going to be the same.
So after that fight, he goes to see Trinity, and just as he's about to try to give her his big speech, because that's the whole point, is like she has to willingly come out or it's not going to work or whatever. But NPH shows up and he's like, "Surprise, Mr. Anderson, I'm the villain." He has an enhanced version of bullet time, where he can slow down everything around himself. And so, surprise, Neo, you're not the most powerful person in the universe. Yeah. I am.
Right.
Ha 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 ha. Mustache twirl.
Yeah.
I don't think this character is great, the analyst. I think it's worse if Neil Patrick Harris isn't playing him.
Yeah, no, I can all buy that. I mean, goes to your point that the cast is actually good in this movie.
He does very good mustache twirling villainy in this movie.
Right. And I didn't like it as much as other mustache twirling villains have been in other movies. Like, a perfect example of that is actually Birds of Prey. Ewan McGregor of Birds of Prey is
very good mustache twirling villain.
It's the amount for the ridiculous and kind of crazy and out there nature of that movie, but a movie like this where it's supposed to be a little bit more subtle, he definitely twirls that mustache a lot.
Yeah, he does like the thing with the apple and the bullet, like the bullets coming at for a sequence that goes way too long.
Yeah.
That sequence where he fires the gun at Trinity and he's just like talking and talking and talking and talking.
It's so weird because they kind of picked different frame rates.
They do it's like a weird super speed effect.
Yeah, they do it in the beginning of the movie, which again is very, very early 2000s slow motion. I think maybe she did that just to call back to when the movie was originally. I guess so. Yeah, that's the only kind of solace I have for this, and the only saving grace.
So they have to pull back. They can't get Trinity out yet, and then they go back to Niobe, and she's like, "Why'd you do that? Mm-hmm. Like now I gotta excommunicate you from my world, from my city." And Neo's like, "Wait." He's like, "This is way deeper than you think it is. Like this guy is legitimately gonna." Like, the machines are gonna take over again, basically, if we don't get Trinity out. And Naomi's like, "You don't think I know that?" Mm-hmm. So she calls in a magic butterfly machine, and surprise, Priyanka Chopra's in there.
Yes. The little girl's back.
The most obscure character in the world.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
She's like, "You don't remember me, but I was that little girl."
Yeah, it's my first acting job that my parents got me, and now I'm back.
And I was just like, okay. But you said people were cheering for that?
It wasn't like a full-out cheer, but it was like a gasp followed by yeah, and I was like, oh, we're ruined.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese was right. We're ruined.
I saw that, and I was like,
Yeah. I was like, cool.
So they have the big...
but she was in the trailer, too, so...
Yeah, she was. And then they do the thing, and I hate when movies do this. any movie. I don't care what movie it is. I don't think this type of sequence has ever been done well, where it's I'm explaining to you what the plan is,
and you're doing it,
and we're superimposing how the plan's supposed to look, but it's not actually how it's going. I hate that so much. And they did it in this, and I'm like, of course they did.
Yeah.
Did not like that.
Okay. I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
So yeah, she's outlining the whole plan on how they're going to rescue Trinity.
She's the new Oracle, by the way. That's essentially who she is.
Yeah. So they're talking about how they're going to rescue Trinity from the Matrix, but she has to come willingly. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how are we possibly going to do this? Like the analyst knows Neo better than he knows himself, and Neo's like, well, we'll use that against him. Haha. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm just going to appeal to his. What's the line that? He knows me so well that, it makes him lazy, basically. It makes him lethargic. Like, he thinks he knows everything.
Right.
So I'm basically just going to offer myself up, and if she doesn't come, I'm going to just stay in the Matrix. And they're like, that sounds real risky. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you clearly didn't see the first 3 movies.
Right. I am the risk.
Did you even play my games?
Yeah. You guys call yourselves fans?
Yeah, so they go back in, and they have a big meeting at the coffee shop, and Neil Patrick Harris is like, what are you doing here, Neo? And he's like, I'm here to make you an offer you're not going to refuse.
Yeah.
My life, basically my life for Trinity. Mm-hmm. Like, if she decides that she doesn't want to come with me, you win. You can have me, you can have her, you can just have your Matrix.
Right.
And, but he's like, but if she comes with me, you gotta let us leave.
Yeah, which... Every villain's like, cool.
Yeah, Patrick Harris is like, yeah, sure,
deal.
Bud.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, you see all these agents I got behind me? Yeah, deal, man.
Agents and cops. And
right.
So she comes in, and Neo gives his big speech, you're not supposed to be here. This isn't right. And Trinity's like, my name's Tiffany. Mm-hmm. I have a family here. I'm happy here. And she's just about to walk out. And then Neil Patrick Harris does the worst villain move in history of villain moves. And he's like, he's about to win. And then he's just like, seize that man.
Yeah.
And make this real sketchy.
Yeah.
So that she starts questioning herself.
Give him the line that she gives.
She's just about to leave, and then she looks back at Neo, and like her husband, quote unquote, Chad or whatever, is grabbing her arm, and she's like, my name is Trinity, or she says something like, I hate that name. Mm. Tiffany is what she's alluding to. My name is Trinity, and get your hands off me.
Yeah.
And then boom, great action sequence with Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah.
She does the Trinity kick, the behind the head kick.
Yeah.
I was like, yep. Good.
Yeah, she's
good.
back. Everybody's back.
Good callback that works.
Let's get back into this Matrix movie that's trapped inside this other movie.
Yeah, and then just a big fight. Big fight happens. Neo's using his whoosh powers.
Yeah.
He hasn't used many other powers other than that.
Right. Oh yeah, because he's an old man now. He's an old man.
He really just relies on the barrier power.
Right.
They even make the joke about like, can you fly? And he tries, and he's like, nope.
Nope. Yeah. Right.
So there's a big fight, and it looks like it's curtains for the good guys, and then because Neil Patrick Harris is using his reverse bullet time powers,
right,
and
then he also has where he can kind of turn any of the humans that are trapped inside the Matrix kind of into, what does he call it? Kind
bugs.
Of like, bugs that just kind of...
They're like computer zombies.
Right.
Basically.
They did it. So in the train sequence, when they got Neo out for the first time, they sent them after all of them, and it's basically, you just turn the computer into like a bomb, essentially, and they just kind of attack you. So zombies. It's Black Ops zombies.
Yeah, it's computer zombies. Yeah. So he's about to just kill them all because he can, and then Smith shows up.
Mm-hmm. and Smith and Neo, like I told you before, they finally needed the piece. They needed to be two of the greatest adversaries in film history in terms of like a franchise.
It's very Joker Batman.
Yeah, it is.
It's very like, you can't kill him because I want to kill him.
Right. Right. And they work together for a second.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff.
Yeah, Smith beats the crap out of Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah. And it's very satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
Because I didn't see that coming. I was like,
oh! I thought Smith was going to walk out and be like, Mr. A, like, you can't stop the both of us now. And then Trinity... I thought it was going to be Mr...
Neo and Trinity versus the Analyst and Smith. Mm-hmm. But that's not what we got.
No.
We got Smith versus the Analyst.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, well, see you later, Neo.
Yeah. And he just leaves. Because he has free will now?
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess that was the point, right? When he was like, what does he say? He does like the I never felt so alive in my life kind of thing. My fake life. My artificial life.
But he was a program. He wasn't even a human.
but now he feels alive.
What if that was a lie from the first trilogy where, the whole thing is that Smith was always a human, but he was one of the first ones, so that's why they have him as an agent?
I don't know, man.
Throwing my fan theories out there.
And then it's just basically a big prolonged escape sequence for the rest of the movie, essentially.
Right.
Until we get to the very, very end. There's a lot of near misses. The movie's a little toothless.
It also doesn't care about its side characters, because if any of them go, the movie stays the same. Like, it doesn't care.
But none of them even went.
Yeah. Yeah, they were in the car.
But they didn't go.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
They got saved in the end.
Yeah.
By Jessica Chadwick and Morbius.
But still, they don't matter. That's another issue I have is...
The side characters are forgettable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this or not, but we didn't mention literally any of them.
Right. And even Jessica Henwick herself suffers from this at points in the movie. Because it tries to introduce this new character, and then once it hits the middle part of the movie, she's in it and she's integral to the plot, but it doesn't feel like she's...
It's like the sequence where her and Morpheus rescue the others is just like to remind the audience that she's still in the movie.
Right.
They're like, we need Bugs something to do. So they give her something to do. But yeah, like I said, it's a little toothless. Like, nobody dies.
No.
Like, in the original Matrix, there's a sense of dread.
Yeah, there is.
Whenever they're being pursued.
Especially when Cypher flips in the original one. It's because he's doing it in the inside and the outside. That's why it's really... You feel that fear right then and there.
Yeah, so there's no real sense of dread. That's one thing that this movie didn't have that the originals obviously had, was that sense of that tension. You know what I mean? Because I feel like as soon as Trinity awakens, you know that it's probably going to work out for them. Right. Maybe not in the way that it does. So we get, they climb up the stairs onto a rooftop, very, again, reminiscent of the first movie, where they make a rooftop escape in the first movie. And surprise, Trinity's also the one.
Yes. They're the two that is the one.
Yeah, they jump off the roof and they stop in midair. Neo does some cool missile redirection at helicopters, stopping machine guns. They jump off a roof and they stop in midair, and Neo's like, that ain't me. And Trinity's like, I fly now? And Neo's like, you fly now.
Oh, no. This is more new trilogy Star Wars references than I thought we'd get.
And yeah, that's basically how the movie, not how the movie ends, but Neo and Trinity escape the Matrix and they're back in the real world, and they're like, let's take this mother effer down. Yeah.
So mid-credit scene, I guess they go see.
I guess it's just the end of the movie.
It's the end of the movie. So they go see the analyst.
They're both back in their kind of OG Matrix garb.
They're all powered up. They're final form versions of themselves. Trinity's even more than usual because, like we said, her
power's unlocked.
Yeah,
she's basically on par with Neo.
Right.
They're one and the same.
Right. So she's beating the crap out of the analyst.
Really fun.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's the most graphic part of the whole movie. Yeah, she just punches his jaw clean off.
Yeah. And then she just wipes the screen back, and it just goes back to normal. It's great.
And it's also just this very neat display of her powers that she can just reset basically the reality.
Right.
Like at a snap of a finger.
Right.
And he's like, what are you just gonna do this the whole time? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Rewrite the Matrix? And they're like, yeah. Right. That's exactly what we're doing. We're actually doing that now. We just wanted to come here to just
mess with you.
Yeah, just screw with you a bit.
Yeah. And then they just fly out of the window and the movie ends in a very early 2000s way to end a movie.
Neo puts his sunglasses back on.
He's got the trench coat again.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And then the movie ends. That's it.
Yeah. Okay movie.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's more fun now. I'm glad that we talked about it because I was on the spectrum of this movie was bad. This movie was bad. And now it's okay now. It's okay.
I think I was kind of in that boat, obviously, through the first, 40-ish minutes. And then, once, like I said, man, once the Matrix stuff started happening and he got out of, it's like I got woken up from the Matrix when he got pulled out of the pod. I got pulled out of the pod and I'm like, wait, is this actually, are we treading into like a good movie here? Did we stumble into a good movie?
It's all right. It's all right. It's the best part.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of interesting ideas in here. If they had accentuated some of those ideas other than others and whatever happens in the first, 30 to 40 minutes, I think it could have been better. Would that have helped the box office performance? I don't know. Probably not. as big as this franchise was, and this is kind of like going to be like our Matrix Post-Mortem for the rest of this episode. As big as this franchise was, it never felt big enough to justify this kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're like 20 some odd years on and we're going to do another Matrix movie.
Actually, I think the other way. I
Really?
think this franchise was big enough because of the iconic nature of when it came out and what it did for modern day action. I think it did not warrant, because I don't think there's ever such thing as warranting something to come back like this after somebody said it's over.
Let me throw this at you. Do you think erasing the John Wick franchise and the renaissance of Keanu Reeves, do you think this works?
No, I don't think
that's kind of how I feel about it.
Because, I mean, I love Keanu Reeves, but he's not some Oscar-winning actor. Also, I mean, that also helped the original Matrix of him just being kind of like, obviously we said the first one is a little different, but the second and third one, and then the John Wick face, he's very stoic, especially in this one. He's the modern day action hero, which updated, I mean, technology updated and the Matrix updated with it. So he's very, he's the perfect person because he doesn't need to do a lot of acting. He doesn't need to do a lot of overacting. He's very face level.
And they returned him to that status quo in this movie. They kind of returned him to the first Neo in the first Matrix, where he's like, "What is happening?" It's very that, for a lot of it, and I think that works. But like I said, short of what he had done with John Wick, I don't think this would have ever happened.
Yeah,
I don't think. If you erase John Wick from the timeline, people would be in 2018 and 2019 going, you know what we should do? Bring the Matrix back. Right. I don't think anybody would have said that, That
perspective I definitely get. In terms of a story and the meaning of that story, I mean, to the real world and to movies itself. It's
very relevant.
Yeah, it is. Even more than the relevant speech, just the fact, like I said, that this is one of the building block movies that you have. Star Wars, Jaws, Back to the Future. What else am I thinking? Like Goodfellas, in terms of like those movies that are essential to make more movies.
I'm glad you framed it that way, because I don't think a lot of people think that when they think of the Matrix. They think like popcorn and big blockbuster action movie. But this movie did a lot for what the MCU is doing now. Like Matrix laid the foundation for 21st century action.
Yeah, it did. It really it did. It's what, because I want to make the point too, American action specifically, because if you go other places in the world, this is just another movie. But what helped the Matrix, and I think what makes the original so good and so, so prevalent, it's the balance of the two. It's the balance of that, but it's the actual concept, because that's a pretty crazy concept. It's the tropes being broken essentially in the first one of he gets woken up into this hellscape as soon as he becomes awakened by the red pill. And it's not like the other way around, because it could have been he was in that scape and then he gets awakened into like, this isn't real, like I'm in this good place by the end. It's the other way, like life is horrible right now. We almost ended civilization. So
and a lot of people, for good or for ill, use the philosophy of the Matrix even today.
Yeah.
I
used it this whole episode.
Yeah. So it did a lot. And, as, people are going to feel about this film the way they are, I'm glad that they revisited it in some shape or form without it being a true reboot. I mean, it's technically a reboot. If you want to talk about the story, The Matrix is technically rebooted, but I'm glad, we got to see at least a few of these characters and a character in Spirit in Smith. And like I said, I can't say enough good things about how Jonathan Groff played it. I think that guy, we talk about like standouts of movies. He was one of the standouts for me in this. Just the way he played, just like the switch flipped. When the switch flipped and he became Smith, it was like, whoa. Like this guy has something about him, I mean, it is what it is. I don't think box office is going to dictate that this gets any type of sequel.
Yeah.
So I think as much as Neo and Trinity rebooted the Matrix, I think the Matrix is pretty dead at this point, and then we just have these 4 movies to look back on until, maybe someone will restart the Matrix at some point and do the whole dang thing over again.
Yeah. Whether that be Lana Wachowski, we'll see. Maybe she steps away and gives it to somebody else, or this is really her baby, so I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. Maybe maybe something happens where different writers, different directors don't just work on movies. It's not just a director and it's end all be all. There's a lot of things that go into movies.
Yeah, so. And I mean, who knows? Maybe she was just too close to it. I mean, this is something that George Lucas suffered from, particularly in the prequels, where he kind of really took the reins over the prequels, where that was not. Anybody will tell you that he was the brain of the original Star Wars trilogy, but he wasn't hands-on writing the whole dang things, right. Pen to page. You know what I mean? He had people. His wife, famously oversaw a lot of the original ideas and writing of the original Star Wars. And when he was left to his own devices in the prequels, we got what we got. So it could be a similar situation here where maybe she had too much kind of on it, and maybe it suffered for that. We're not going to know.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Well, I know we've talked, and I mean, again, Spider-Man is probably the perfect example of this over the last... All these theories that we've had, and some came true, some didn't come true. This is going to happen, this isn't going to happen, even from a studio perspective. We don't know what happens behind the scenes, and we'll never know. Some people will never know. All these, if they were at odds with one another when they were... Maybe it was peaceful. I doubt it, but maybe it was peaceful and she got what she wanted and this is the movie. Not everybody's going to have an A+ movie every time they go out there.
Yeah, and not everyone's going to be as transparent as, say, Zack Snyder was about, but, the fallout between was very public, and there were obviously some incredibly tragic circumstances that precipitated his departure from Justice League, and that was very well known, and fan swelling. I don't think there's a sense that this was a movie that Lana Wachowski was forced to make, and at gunpoint by Warner Brothers.
But again, going back to the George Lucas thing, that's her baby, so you would hope that she got to continue her vision at least. So.
Yeah, and I think there's elements of that.
Right,
I think
100%.
Like I said, there are moments in this movie where it felt very Matrix, it felt very good, and then there are other moments where it just didn't land. And that's ultimately, this movie's very uneven. I think that's the best way to put it, that it's an uneven movie.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's kind of it on the Matrix. Any final thoughts on this movie, on the franchise?
Yeah, just go check it out. I mean, like I said, I consider the original Matrix one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's one of the most important movies of all time, and I'll die on that hill too, that it is one of the building block movies, that it's very foundational and very, very essential to film itself into this modern day action, because as much as we want all these indie movies or whatever, we still need these popcorn flicks. It's what Hollywood was founded on. So, and I think the original Matrix did a really good job of kind of defying some of those tropes too. And I mean, just from the opening action sequence itself, it felt super different to what we have been getting. So as a whole on a franchise, I think, even though, Revolutions is probably, do you like Revolutions or Resurrections better?
Man, it's tough, because I don't think Revolutions is good, but it obviously has the strength of building off of the other two.
Right.
Whereas this one, it's hard to look past that first third of the movie.
Yeah.
It's real hard to look past that. I mean, there's a reason we didn't really talk about it. It's because it's way too heavy-handed. It's way too on the nose. The writing is not great.
Yeah.
Things are not well delivered. It's just very choppy. It's very start and stop. And I couldn't get into it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't think Revolutions really has those moments. It has moments that aren't great, but it at least it's pushing the story forward. And like I said, it has that payoff of Neo's kind of hero moment culmination, where, this movie is really Neo rediscovering his heroic nature.
Right.
This is essentially what this movie is.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, as a franchise, it's still needed. I like the lore of this franchise. I mean, I keep saying it week in, week out, that I'm a really big lore person. I love lores. That's why I love Star Wars so much, because it's so expansive. So this universe itself is rich as well, because again, the Matrix can keep being rebooted. So that nature's really cool to me. So again, it's something that you can really revisit, appreciate the first movie, appreciate some of the stuff that comes from it as well. That's my big kind of message about this entire franchise.
Yeah. Just like you said earlier, recognizing that it is one of the godfathers of modern action movies. That's I hope if nothing, I hope that this movie makes people revisit the first three.
Yeah.
If anything,
especially specifically the first two.
Yeah. And I mean the first one you'll find on any top 100 list.
Yeah.
Of all time, films of all time, you'll find The Matrix promptly seated within, I don't know, top 50, top 25.
I'd say the top 50.
Yeah.
Maybe 60 if I'm pushing it, but
yeah.
Because I guarantee there are people when this first came out, because I wouldn't know, but there are people when this movie first came out that probably hated it, and they were just like, "This is stupid."
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's our first film review of 2022.
The Matrix.
The Matrix. We're back.
Did we ever leave?
Oh.
Oh no! Let's get out of here before I go down the rabbit hole like Alice.
Yeah. You've been watching anything?
Not really.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I watched. Oh, did I talk about? I talked about Licorice Pizza last week.
Yes,
I did. So not really. I haven't watched much. been dealing with the new year. It was Christmas to New Year and a lot of hectic nature. World's getting a little.
Hey man, with all due respect, a lot of people take time off during this period.
Yeah, I did the opposite of take time off.
Not us. A lot will, but not us.
Yeah, but what are we to look to the past if we cannot prepare for the future? That's my first quote of this year.
Nice.
I know somebody probably said it, but I'm coining it right now. So future's going to be fun for us. We don't know what we're going to do next week, and I love that.
Next week, I mean, maybe we look back at 2021.
Yeah, we can do...
We missed the whole 7 months of 2021.
Yeah, we did. So
not we physically, we podcasting.
Yeah.
Our voices.
We weren't trapped inside of the Matrix.
Were we?
Oh, no.
Or are we still?
We probably are still.
Yeah, so, I mean, 2021 had a lot of kind of highlights that we didn't really get to talk about.
Yeah.
That maybe we talked about in passing, but didn't really get to dive too deep on. Obviously the Marvel Disney Plus shows, at the forefront of that. WandaVision and Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, the three out of the 4 we didn't talk about. So, or 3 out of the 5 if you count What If. So
yeah, so maybe next week we take a look back at 2021, kind of like a 2021 year in review.
Unless something crazy happens.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been a great episode to do this week? Sure.
But the Matrix takes precedent. Because we are all trapped.
Sure, you could say that the first episode of 2022 could have been a 2021 year in review.
Yeah.
But no.
But we are the two that
we defy expectations.
Yes.
We are the Matrix of podcasts.
Yes.
Defying the tropes.
Yes.
All right. I guess it's time to plug some stuff. All right. Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. Share our Facebook with other people, I guess. New episodes drop on Facebook as soon as they're uploaded.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Share that like you've never shared anything before.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
We gotta get to Warner Brothers before it's too late.
Instagram.
At the Project Infinite Pod.
Yep. Where you can find updates on our latest episode and what we have coming up, what we've done in the past. That's all there. And you can email us at projectinfinitepod@gmail.com. And that's it. That's everything. Cool.
I think that's it. There was no destruction this episode, even though Roland Emmerich would have wanted some.
Oh, dude. Moonfall comes out next month.
Yes. So I know my top anticipated movie for this year is The Batman, but I guarantee you it probably was something close to that before, and then you found out that Moonfall was coming out.
Oh, it's coming out next month. It's a month from today, February 4th.
We had a 2-hour conversation about Moonfall before we hopped on.
Dude, Roland Emmerich, that guy just...
He's a menace to society.
He needs to be stopped.
No, keep going. You just wait.
Go bigger.
Yeah, go big or go home. Who's he got to fight?
I don't know.
Who's the hero got to fight in his
I just imagined, like we talked about earlier, Roland Emmerich storyboarding his films, and he's just got a whiteboard. And he's just
like
the
Charlie Day meme, but just like world-ending events.
Villain ?
Yeah, the moon.
It just says villain, and then underneath dash the moon.
Yeah.
Where it just starts weather.
Yeah.
And then it's like did that dash the moon.
Yeah.
Underneath the moon, the sun ?
What's after the sun? The galaxy?
Oh man, Galactus.
Yeah, Galactus. He is going to direct the new Fantastic Four movie. It's not John Watson anymore.
Oh man. All right, guys. The Morpheus of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Which one, though?
Lawrence Fishburne Morpheus, yeah.
I love you.
Smoke and mirrors and presentation. That's what you're all about.
Mysterious aura about me, and a very, projecting kind of voice of smooth.
They didn't give him the glasses in this new one.
Yeah, and I also don't wear glasses, so.
True. All right, guys. I guess that's it. Kind of a shorter one this week, but, didn't have a lot of news, and we had a lot to say about The Matrix, but also not a lot to say. All right, guys. So next week, I think we're, like I said, going to look back at 2021. Until then...
take the red pill.
Is that your new thing?
Yeah. Maybe take the blue pill. Have a good time.
Just stay in the Matrix, man. It sucks out here.
Yeah. Take the blue pill.
It sucks in the world. Go in the Matrix. Become Chef Gordon Ramsay if you want.
Yeah, or don't take any pills at all.
Or that.
Yeah, say no to drugs, kids.
Then you end up like Antonio Brown.
Didn't think we would talk about that this week. Bring up some old memories, this Steeler fan right here.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.